I also want to thank Pastor Christensen and Dr. Men for inviting me to come and speak with you this morning. And I especially want to give a thank you to the Hebrew class that I was able to be with yesterday. Sorry if I rode you guys a little too hard with the Hebrew, but you did great today with Psalm 130. I want to send my greetings to all of those who are gathered here in person and online this morning as well, as we commemorate this 83rd anniversary of Kristallnacht. There is a quote from a first century rabbinic sage, which I find surprising. Shimon ben Gamliel teaches that all my days I grew up among the sages, and I have found nothing better for a person than silence. Well, we may be tempted to thinking that he beat Simon and Garfunkel to the punch by a couple of thousand years with the sound of silence. What is truly remarkable to me is the two sides of this teaching. On the one hand is the noise, which surely was made by the discussion of the various sages as he grew up amongst them. And on the other hand is the silence that he prized. Shimon was the son of Gamliel, who in the middle of the first century was a leader of the proto-rabbinic community, and who is known in Christian tradition from the book of Acts as Gamaliel. Jewish tradition sees him as a great teacher and legal authority, and yet his son Shimon holds up silence as the best. And setting aside the complex relationships between fathers and sons for the moment, we can speculate about why it might be that Shimon ben Gamliel would value silence when we think of the noise made by the breaking glass of Kristallnacht. Along with the shattering of the windows of Jewish-owned stores and synagogues, there were other noises breaking through that night. Various sounds of violence, such as the crackling of torches, the yells of gangs of angry men, and the cries of those being beaten and sent to concentration camps, to which we would add the screams of sisters. Shimon, too, lived in a time of upheaval, a time when the Romans were fighting a war against the Jewish community in the land of Israel. He would have known his share of the sounds of fires, the sounds of suffering, the clashes of war. In the Jewish liturgical poem, Ela Ezkara, These I Remember, he is listed as the first of the 10 martyrs killed by the Romans for teaching Torah. He died the same year, although slightly before, the final destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans. As we sit in this commemorative service, at this very moment, the Anti-Defamation League is hosting its Never Is Now conference, the annual conference that they have about the current state of anti-Semitism. The session that began at 11 o'clock today is combating anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic activism in progressive spaces. This has been a 3-day online conference, and the message that has come through from it has been about the rise of anti-Semitism in our world and our country. The last several years have seen anti-Semitic hate speech and activity rise like never before in the United States. We are moving more and more into a dangerous space for Jews, certainly, and for all marginalized communities, as we know well from Martin Niemöller's poem. So how can we understand Shimon ben Gamliel's love of silence balanced against his growing up in the presence of the sages? That balance comes from what we speak of and what we remain silent about, what we speak and what we silence. The cries of violence should be silenced. The calls to hate should be silenced. Stories such as Walter's are the words of the sages. Poems such as Pastor Niemöller's are the words of the sages. The need to give voice when we see injustice is not the silence that Shimon ben Gamliel recommends. Only when we balance the sharing of sage words against the silencing of violence will we come to a place where we can be assured that never again will be a reality. May it be God's will that it be so in our own day.